All right, let's go over your Unit 2B Day 4 assignment, the practice describing your data. And so this first page had to do with the outliers. And so you wanted to make sure that you followed the outlier rules. And then here you had your computer printout, and there were some things you could ignore, like the number of pieces of data, the trimmed mean, and the standard error of the mean. We don't need those. And then we'll be using that min and max to determine if we have outliers or not and what kind of outliers they are. All right. And of course, you use your Q1 and Q3 so you can get the IQR to be able to get your IQR rule fences. All right. So remember that with our IQR rule fences, we had the Q3 plus 1.5 IQR, and for the upper and lower was Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. So I put in the numbers here. Our fence was 26.375, and then I go and look at this female max, the maximum of the female data. And I can see that the maximum for the female is not above the upper outlier. So in order to be an upper outlier, that maximum has to be above the upper fence, or the minimum has to be below the lower fence. And so we didn't have the maximum above the other upper fence, but the minimum of 2 is below the lower fence. So we do have a lower outlier. All right. Now, the standard deviation rule, that's your mean plus 2 standard deviations, or the mean minus 2 standard deviations. And so there are the fences at 22, and we didn't have then an upper outlier for the females. And then we did have a lower outlier. Again, 2 was a lower outlier. With that rule, the fence was 6.643. So in both cases, what this means is that we have at least one lower outlier. So I did want to mention something that some students had asked during class today. Okay, so here's typically what we're going to have as far as the outlier options. Okay, whenever we're looking at those minimum and maximum. You may have, so one of the options is that you may have no outliers. Okay, so you had no upper outliers or lower outliers. Okay, the other option is you may have at least one, and then this would be an upper or a lower, whichever one it ended up being, outlier. And so what that means is on one side, there was not any outliers, but on the other side, the max or the min, whichever one it was outside of the fence. Well, you only know that one piece of data. So, you could have something where, here's your fence right here, and then you've got, several pieces of data before that maximum right there. Okay. So you could have, in this case, 4 upper outliers. Okay. So you could have more outliers than just that maximum. So we have to say at least one. All right. Now, there is another case. You could say that you have at least 2 outliers. And so in this case, this happens if you know that you have at least at least one lower, and at least one upper. Okay, so if you've got at least one upper and at least one lower, then I have at least 2. I could have more, but I know for sure I've at least got 2. Okay, so these are the phrases that we'll see, and those are happening because of seeing that max and min. All right, so back to this, I'll just let you look at what happened with the male data. There was our fence. We ended up having no upper outliers and no lower outliers on either one of these cases. So you can check your data to see where those fences were and see if you did those correctly. All right, now this was an interesting one. So here we were wondering, based on these two numbers, the 58,750 or the 89,354, which one's mean and which one's median? So I actually pulled a picture from the 2017 NFL salaries just to show you. Look at here. Here is the salary schedule of the players, and you can see that it is skewed right because you have a few way upper outliers. So this skewed right shape gives us the mean being greater than the median, which is, of course, greater than the mode. So, therefore, the 89,354 is the mean, and the 58,001 is the median. Okay. Now, here, if you take this picture and you turn it correctly, so if you turn your head, then you would see, let me see if I can get the writing tool. Then you turn your head sideways and you can see that this is skewed in this direction here. Okay, so here we have this kind of thing. Looking sideways, make sure the number line is going from least to greatest when you turn your head, and then that's how you get that. So the mean is greater than the median. Here, the statement 1 and statement 2 are true, and same statement 3. If the distribution is skewed to right, the mean is greater than the median. So that one is true. All the responses are true. So that's interesting. All the responses are true. So A through D doesn't give all responses true. So this is a weird one in which it says none of the above gives the complete set of true responses because they are all true. All right, next, number 7, statements 1 and 2 are true. 3 is false. 3 is false because histograms will not give you that individual piece of data value. It's a bin of values. Now, I actually did look into the question about dot plots. Dot plots are dot plots are supposed to give you those individual pieces of data values or something like really close. You can tell those pieces of data. All right. Explain why histogram A has a smaller standard deviation than histogram B. Well, simply, histogram A has data more closely clustered around the center, so the average distance from the mean is less. But histogram B has high frequencies, large amounts of data on these outside edges that are farther away from the middle, so that average distance from the mean is greater in histogram B.